Now, since all of you are watching a linguistics video, I doubt I need to explain to you what the comparison method is. But since there might be some new viewers here, I might as well do it anyways. Basically, linguists classify the world into over 40 major language families. This classification is based on something known as the comparison method, which is when linguists compare structure, grammar, and vocabulary of different languages and look for similarities. And if there are consistent similarities, they consider the languages related and part of the same family, which means that at some point they had a common ancestor which descended into both of them. The most famous example of the comparison method at work is probably the first time that linguists put it to use, which is the Indo-European language family. When linguists went to India, they noticed that their classical language, Sanskrit, was very similar to the European classical languages of Latin and Greek. And later, after the discovery of Grimm's Law, they added Germanic languages to that group as well. So this grouping later became known as the Indo-European language family, and they reconstructed the Proto-Indo-European language as their However, this method isn't often airtight. Some language families have been suggested that are likely completely unrelated and have only historically influenced each other, as languages spoken nearby each other tend to share words and oftentimes influence each other's structures. Other times, however, similarities are completely coincidental because these languages have not at all interacted with each other in any time during ancient history. This is quite common in terms of words because there's so many sounds in human languages, there is bound to be some repetition in different languages at some point. So let's take a look at some of these astronomical coincidences now. Once again, let's start with the most famous example, which is that the English word dog is almost completely identical to the Mbabaram word for dog, which is just dog. Mbabaram is an Aboriginal Australian language that is related to its more famous cousin, Jirbal. Now, the thing is, the word dog is already a weird one in English, since linguists have no idea where it came from. It is completely unrelated to any Germanic word for dog, since the Old English word for dog, hund, later became the English word hound, and there is no evidence that it was borrowed from French or any other Romance language. So the fact that this word is specifically is the one that is coincidentally present in a completely unrelated language on the other side of the world just adds another layer to this. Now for a less commonly discussed one. The Spanish word for to look is mirar, while the Japanese word for to look is mira. Now these words are definitely completely unrelated, since not only are they on the opposite sides of the world, they have not had any major contact historically, except for that one time Japanese Christians traveled to Spanish Mexico, but that's a different story. Okay, now for the final example, I'm gonna have some explaining to do since this language isn't very widely known. But Pumpakol is a Yeniseian language that was spoken in Russia. Unfortunately, it went extinct a while ago. By a while, I mean like the centuries. So it is very poorly documented. We only have a few word lists amounting to around 60 or so words. Now, I was on the Wikipedia page for Pumbakol, as you do, when I noticed that their word for egg is literally just egg, like the English word egg. Again, this is a complete coincidence. There is no explanation for this. So, if you're wondering about the flag I used for Pumbakol, it's the Free Siberia flag, which I found on Wikipedia. Anyways, if you guys have any astronomical linguistic coincidences of your own, please share them in the comments. I'd love to hear about them, and I'm sure others would as well. See you guys in my next video.